concerned about how to keep the best young talent within their organization. It comes up again and again. Because they're very conscious of how young adults, young professionals in the modern world, they have different expectations, different needs from their career, from their life. And it's interesting that so much of what we know in Krishna consciousness, it's there, but it's there in a dormant form. Yeah? By dormant, it's like this. Dormant means that you have some awareness. You have some awareness. Thanks for joining us. But there's a difference between being aware of something and using it. So what we thought would be good today is to share a few things just to get you to think about your own lives. Think about where you're going. Think about what you want to achieve. And really, this is something that I saw with my own parents. Every generation in Krishna consciousness, every group of youth, should be able to be more successful with less effort than the group that came before them. The way this is meant to work is as follows. First of all, we're meant to have a deeper appreciation of our teachings. Each generation captures some elements of our teachings, but they also have a certain slant. So for example, if we were to talk about the Prabhupada's disciples, what was the movement like at the time of Prabhupada and his disciples? What was this? So they had the teachings, the books were going out, Prabhupada was there physically. What was the slant? What was the emphasis? What was going on at that time? Any ideas? Expansion. Good. What else? What was the main service? Book distribution. Good. Where were the devotees mostly living?
Temple.
In the temple. Okay. Now let's look at the present moment. Where do most of the devotees live? Outside. Yeah? Is it just book distribution that's emphasized? There's a whole range of other things. And also, along with that, living in the temple, how would you describe temple living? Is it austere, relaxed? What words would you use to describe that kind of lifestyle? More austere? Do we find that it's as easy for people nowadays to be as austere, yes or no? But does that mean that they can't go back to Godhead? Not at all. So for your generation, you should actually be able to achieve more for less. We shared a formula that I wanted to share with you, and this is when we were giving a presentation recently on natures. And so this is a very simple formula, but it has a lot of meaning, and it's derived from our scriptures. Okay, so this is empowerment, and that is to do with you as an individual, plus, and this is a key thing that has often been forgotten, plus this, we'll call it the environment. So every one of us has a certain level of power. You're chanting, you're hearing, you're reading, all of these things are strengthening you in various ways. They're actually strengthening you in a range of ways. For example, some of the things you do help make you mentally strong. Some of the things you do actually sharpen your intelligence. Some of the things you do give you a lot of direct spiritual power. But even if it's not direct, anything can be engaged in Christian service. Your mental strength can be engaged. Your intelligence can be engaged. Your skills can all be engaged. Yeah? And what we're trying to do in Christian consciousness is actually more than one thing. It used to be the case that only the emphasis was on you. Meaning that you chant, you hear, you read, all of these things are going to help you. And it's correct. But we wanted to introduce you to another factor. And that is here. That is your lifestyle. The way you live. How you associate. One of the biggest things that cause, let's put it this way. One of the biggest things that cause a drop in productivity, let's say, that means how much we achieve as a movement, is actually is actually expectations. Sounds strange. Any ideas? How can expectations affect productivity? And I'm talking as a movement, as a group, as a movement of individuals, of devotees who are trying to spread Krishna consciousness. How can expectations reduce productivity? Or how can our expectations?
Morale.
Tell me more.
So if you feel like you want to achieve something, but then you don't achieve it, your morale will go down.
Okay, that's good. That's one way. Any other ways in which expectations can affect productivity? Think about it. Yes?
I heard something in a video of a quote, I think Bill Gates, where he said we underestimate what we can do in 1 year, but overestimate what we can do in 1 year, but underestimate what we can do in 10.
Okay.
So it's like not having a good idea of what you could be accomplishing in X amount of time, so then you don't sort of plan effectively with good productivity.
That's a very good answer. Something else. I have a particular idea in mind, but these are both correct and they're useful. Anyone else? How can expectations affect productivity?
Is it because if we have like a smaller goal that we're going to aim and do less, whereas if we expect to get further, then we're going to put effort to get there?
That could be true, definitely. That's a very good answer. Let's take it from another angle. How could your expectations of others affect productivity as a movement? Think about it. Ideas. How can your expectations of other devotees have an influence, a negative influence, on how well we do as a movement? Yes, at the back.
Maybe because what you expect of others may be something that you find which is like appropriate for yourself, but for others, like different people have different experiences. And when you expect something of someone that they may not like at that moment be capable of doing, you kind of see them in a less positive way, which then reduces the productivity of the person you're expecting, and yourself as well, because you put yourself in like a negative consciousness.
Exactly. One of the biggest killers of our productivity is when the relationships between the devotees go bad. And that has a lot to do with the fact that we all have unconscious expectations. I expect the devotee should be like this. I expect the devotee should behave like that. I expect that if this happens, they should communicate with me in this way. But many of these expectations, are they conscious or unconscious? What do you think? They're unconscious because we've never communicated what our expectations are. How often have you, in a relationship or in a grouping or in a project, sat down with everyone and said, okay, let's discuss what we expect of each other. I was on a call with, when I was coming here, when we were coming to Bhuta. Actually, I was on a call when I was coming to the manor to get the coach to come to Bhuta, with one person who wanted to receive some mentoring. So I said, okay, let's sit down and let's actually discuss, what are you looking for in a mentor? And he started to explain some of the different things that he's experiencing and what he's looking for. And then I was also explaining something about what I'm looking for in terms of a mentee and what my capacity is, so I can do this, but we can't do that. And it got me thinking, because he was talking about a previous person who was mentoring him. And he said that I went to some of his sanghas. He said, but after a while, I stopped going. He said, first of all, the mentor didn't actually turn up to many of his sanghas. I was still trying to work out how that works, but that's another story. I didn't want to dive into too deep, so but the other thing is, and this was interesting, he said to me, and this was in a different mentorship system, he said to me, oh, that's fine, no worries, thank you for joining us. And Nilman is my senior, so it's actually better that she gives a speech, but we'll just beg her blessings so we can say something bold. And feel free to chip in with your experience. Yeah, we can please, you should give us some tips. Sure? So what was said is he expected that his mentor would have lots of one-to-one time. And as he was explaining some of the things, thank you, that he was dealing with, it became clear that also, I think his mentor also had limited capacity. So one of the biggest things that cause an issue is we all have expectations of others. Yeah? And those expectations are largely unconscious. Now what we want to present to you is a different way of looking at it. Yeah? See, our teachings are incredibly deep, and I find this every day when I'm working. Because these people, some of the people we're training, they're earning millions. they're traders, all this kind of stuff, they're earning millions of pounds, but they actually don't have anywhere near the depth of understanding that we have in our tradition. It doesn't come close. What they've captured are a few things by observation, but what we have is a complete system based upon spiritual realization. Yeah? So for example, when we're training our leaders, they'll always do something around personality styles. Every time. Yeah? Because they all know, they actually they'll do a psychometric test before they come for the leadership program. And in the program, they have to bring their report, and actually, they've done the test online, we print out their reports, we give them the report at the training. And then we also get them to look at their own personality style. We get them to do a reflective exercise. Okay, now, you have your managers. Either your managers of individual contributors or your managers of managers. Now, we'd like you to take a moment to reflect on the personality type of the people you are managing and how you can get the best out of those people. Prabhupada makes a statement, Atmavam Manyate Jagat. What does that mean? Atmavam Manyate Jagat. Anyone have an idea what that means? It means everyone sees the world from their perspective. And that is one of the biggest killers of productivity in our movement. Because the biggest way that Maya comes and reduces the productivity in our movement is to cause disagreement and disharmony amongst the devotees. And what tends to happen is whatever we expect, we don't consider that it's an expectation from our side. We consider it's exactly the objective truth and the objective standard that everyone should be following. And if they're not following it, they're lying. Something wrong, etc., etc. We want to present to you a different way of looking at the world. And this is inherent, this comes inherently as we practice Krishna consciousness. As we practice Krishna consciousness, who do we see as the center? Any ideas? Any ideas? Who do we see as the center when we practice Krishna consciousness? Krishna. Yeah. Now, right now, theoretically, who's at the center?
Us.
No, theoretically. Krishna. You can test how much Krishna is in the center just by observing your own psychic movements. If you find that you tend to imagine yourself doing something really well and everyone glorifying you, who's at the center? Yeah. If you find that when you're looking at doing something, the whole angle and the way that you analyze it is whether it's something that you like, who's at the center? You get the point? Now, it's a starting point because that's what we're coming from the material energy. It's a starting point. But believe me, something increasingly magical happens the more that our meditation is on how to try and please Guru and Krishna. Yeah? And one of the things which my spiritual master spoke about, he said that you get more strength and empowerment. I remember he said this in a meeting we had. He said there's a difference between doing whatever you like and offering it to Krishna, as opposed to thinking what would please Guru and Krishna and then trying to do that. But there's also a middle piece which is really important. The middle piece is, within our movement, do we find there's just one service? Yes or no? There's loads of things you can do, isn't it? So we can see in ISKCON that there's loads of different devotional services that you can do. But now there's a last step that most devotees miss, and it's a way that Maya gets us unnecessarily. Of all the different things which are available to be done in ISKCON, in devotional service, the last step is what should you be doing? You understand? Because you'll see some devotees are very well positioned and they're flying in spiritual life. They actually love their service. You ask them about Krishna consciousness, it's like, you know, they will go to tears. And the funny thing is, it's not necessarily because they're the most pure person. In many cases, this empowerment, this ability to relish spiritual life, is to do with how much they're developing themselves and how much they are situated in a position of strength. Prabhupada speaks about this, 8th Canto Bhagavatam, chapter 2, text number 30. When I first read that purport, it was mind-blowing. I couldn't believe that no one had mentioned it before, and you'll find this also. This is one of the things I want to really bring to your attention. Please, don't wait for anyone else to enlighten you in spiritual life. You have to begin the search. Sometimes when we give these talks, one of the things that come up is like, why didn't the seniors teach us this? Why didn't the authorities teach us that? But sometimes they didn't know. Yeah? So bear in mind what we said at the beginning. Our whole purpose in being here is that every year, every decade, every 5 years, whatever, the generation that come next should be able to achieve even more than the previous generation, and they should be able to do it in style. Yeah? They should be able to be even more enthusiastic, more powerful, more energized, because they've understood certain things which are always there. These teachings are not new. These have always been there in our tradition. But what happens is sometimes, sometimes we see but we don't see. You will find as you practice Krishna consciousness, there are many gems, like real life-changing nuggets of wisdom that we take for granted, but they've been staring you in the face in Prabhupada's books for decades. And then you come back to you think, hold on, how come no one told us this before? But someone's practicing it. And the ones who are practicing it, they're flying. Yeah? So just to kind of align with what Satyanam Maharaj is speaking about, the first we encourage you to do, try to, even if it's for a minute, 5 minutes a day, try to stay in touch with the books. Because those books will also speak to you. And they'll give you constantly clues about things that you can do in your life that will make a huge difference. A huge difference. One of the biggest things is understanding yourself and understanding how to situate yourself nicely. Yeah? It's a really big thing. I'll give you one simple example, right? So I know that I've spoken, I think, to Neela Money about this before, and other people who are looking after the whole marriage thing. Sometimes is it usually more women than men who are looking to get married? Is that right? Yes? No? Not sure?
Yes,
Sometimes.
sometimes.
Yeah? Okay. Ah.
It's not earlier.
Sometimes, yeah. But it's a simple thing that we didn't really take so much for granted. When Prabhupada say that, the age of when they start looking. Small things like that. And then and it's like, it just seems like a very simple thing. But what may happen is it may take time to find that relationship that works. So if, for example, that woman has started looking later on, then there's less people available, and then it's harder. Then she may be wondering, will I be able to start a family? All of these different things. And someone who isn't so mature may say, oh, that's just material. But it's not just material, right? It then plays into how people are feeling and thinking, which then plays into all other aspects of their life. Even to the point that they may sometimes not want to be in certain environments because all my peers are married, and I feel, I'm the odd one out, all of these things. So what Prabhupada is saying, both in terms of your spiritual practice and in terms of how you situate yourself, has profound meaning. Yeah? Now let's go back to what we said at the beginning. We said, in Prabhupada's time, most devotees lived where? In the temples. So then think about it, they were full-time. Then where is the main focus? On how they're situating themselves or on their own sadhana? On their own sadhana, right? And that focus should never change, because the direct is actually more powerful than the indirect. Is that clear? It's not, both are equal. They're not equal. The sadhana, the chanting especially, is the most important. But the secondary is still important. Yeah? And in the conditioned state, how you're situated can affect how you practice. So when we're talking about finding your style, we're starting to talk about the journey. Yeah? And I know that it's different for different people, but we're encouraging you to have a journey of understanding. There are 2 levels of self-realization. We often talk about the ultimate level, which is that, we find out, who we are in the spiritual world, our relationship with Krishna, all of which will be revealed by the Holy Name ultimately. That's the highest level. But there is a second level of self-realization. And that is also understanding the conditioning that we've come into the world with and how to engage that in a way that we keep ourselves inspired and engaged in Krishna consciousness, and we are able to have maximum effect in terms of spreading the movement or the mission of Prabhupada. Now, there's something that happens in relation to this, and this is something that's come up throughout many years in our movement, and it's called doing the what? Begins with N. Doing the needful. Everyone knows the term, right? And it's interesting that everyone knows that. Because it's not how long you've been in ISKCON, someone's told you, Prabhu, Mataji. Now, there's truth in that, but we have to be very careful. Yeah? What happens is this: you have a service. Like the service is a managerial service, and you just want someone to take on that particular service. So the person who's available doesn't happen to be good at management. That never happens in Panasonic, right? The person who takes on that service isn't actually so strong in management, but they're available, right? And they're very enthusiastic. So you put them in that managerial position. Then another service comes up, let's say marketing. The person who's available, who comes along next, isn't good at marketing. They're good at management. But you already have someone in the position of management. So how does this sketch play out? Where do you usually put that new person who's not good at marketing? You put them in the marketing position, because we are very intelligent devotees. The next position is a position which requires very good person skills, personal development, interaction with other people, nurturing, caring, team building skills. So the third person who comes is excellent at execution and getting things done. Do you see where I'm going with this? Okay. But they may not be quite so sensitive with people. Where do we place that particular person? Guess, everyone? In that particular role. Now, if you look at it carefully, you'll see something very interesting. If we were mindful of our natures and other people's, even if in the beginning we did the needful, as other people come on board who have certain skills, what would we have done? We'll just switch everyone around. And now think about that. What happens to productivity when you have people in roles that they are not suited for? What happens to the productivity? It goes down. But is there anything else that happens to the productivity? For example, think back to the last person. Excellent executor, not good with people. We put them in a role which is all about people development. What could happen?
They could leave.
Sorry?
They could leave.
They could, burn people. They can make some negative feelings towards others. People could start to lose their sense of being happy to serve. Now, something came to my mind the other day, which I wanted to really share with anyone who had to share, because I thought it was very interesting. I want you to think about our movement. And think about how good our movement is overall in terms of management and being competent. And then I want you to consider, so that's on one hand, how competent our movement is. Okay, so that's there. On this side, I want you to think about the effect our movement has on the world. Is the effect that we're having on the world, is it greater than our level of competence, equal to our level of competence, or less than our level of competence? Think about it carefully. What do you think? What do you think? Are we having more effect than we should have, based upon our competence? The same amount of effect or less effect?
More.
Who says less? Who says more? Raise your hands. We're actually having more. If you actually see how mismanaged we often are, and then you see the effect that's happened, you think, this is a miracle. It's true. It's true. You wonder how if you had external people come and study the organization, and you see the volunteers, they come in sometimes they don't turn up, right? And you've seen that play out for some programs. Yeah, I'll help out. And on the day, I'm sorry I can't come in, but you just told me 5 minutes before the program. How are we supposed to cover you, right? The effect is greater than our competence. Why is that? Who's making up that shortfall? Krishna. That's how you know that there's a God. Because the movement, is happening, and if you did a close examination, you think, how is this happening? They don't show up, they don't know what they're doing. Sometimes it's a last minute fix, but things are still going on. That means there's a Supreme Personality of God. But there's 2 things that Krishna does. Well, there's 2 sides to this. The first part of this is that you can imagine, so Krishna, let's place him here. He's above. So what he does is he is like someone who pulls up the movement, okay? He takes something like this cup beneath me. He's power takes the cup and it lifts it up. It lifts it beyond its normal level. Okay? The second factor is how competent we are. So for that, imagine like this. So you have a set of stairs. Now, if an organization is completely incompetent, it's here. But they may be competent, but have you ever known someone who's competent, but they're very sincere, yes or no? Exactly, it happens all the time. So they may not be so materially competent, but they're very sincere. So Krishna, he responds to that devotion. He pulls it up. Yeah? So they may be acted by their material ability or external competence, they're on this level, but Krishna pulls it up, so the effect is actually here. So he's pulled it up 2 steps. Right? Because they were sincere. Right? Prabhupada's mercy is there. This is Lord Chaitanya's movement, so things happen. Now, what would happen if they were more competent? Where would their position be on the stairs? Higher or lower? Higher. So then imagine that we started here. So let's call this position N. If the movement was more organized and more competent, it would start here. Now, if it started here, but everyone was still as devotional, then how much would it go up? How much would it go up? That means that the impact of our movement is actually a congregation. It is a completion. It is a totality of the sincerity of the devotees plus the strategy. How do we know this? So there was a conversation between Prabhupada and Giriraj Maharaj. So interestingly enough, and who knows that conversation? Who saw that conversation before? So when Prabhupada was asking Giriraj Maharaj, how will this movement continue after I leave? What was Giriraj Maharaj's answer? What did he emphasize? No, what did Giriraj Maharaj emphasize? He said, Prabhupada, if we do what? Sorry?
Organization.
No. Giriraj Maharaj said, Prabhupada, if we just chant, he emphasized the devotion aspect. And what was Prabhupada's response? He said, it will happen by?
Intelligence and organization.
Exactly. Which is this. You understand? So these 2 things are actually going on. Our strategy for spreading Krishna consciousness means that we want to be competent and we want to be devotional. Now the magical thing is all of you are competent. But we are all competent in different areas. The first time I went to India, I was in Mayapur, it was for Gaurapani in year 2000. It was a mind-blowing trip. I didn't actually want to go. I remember it was myself. There was a friend of ours called Devesh. He was going, so we went to his house to see him, and he was going to go. And he was like, "Oh, you should actually come." It was myself and Vasudev. We went to visit Devesh, and Vasudev was interested in going. I thought, no, I'm not going to go. I have other things on. And they said to me in the conversation, Vasudev said actually, he said, I really think Krishna wants you to go to India, to Mayapur. Yeah? And I thought, and when he said the way he said it, it was said with such conviction, and I felt it. I thought, maybe this is actually true. And then literally a week, because everything was booked out, we managed to get everything done, flights, accommodation, everything done in 1 week. And when I was there, I was on the bank of the Ganga, and there's one devotee who had certain insight, and they told me something about myself. They said to me, you should always work with people who can get things done. That was their advice to me. They told me that in year 2000, and I didn't take it seriously. But as I was reflecting over the years, I remember all the different preaching engagements that we did which were successful, we always had someone in the team who was good at execution. And I could understand more and more that if you play to your strengths, then the strategic factor of the productivity of the movement, it really comes through. But more than that, and this is another thing we talk about with our leaders and managers, one of the biggest things that they always talk about is called retention. What is retention? What are we talking about? Retention. Staff not leaving? Okay, anything else? Retention. Why is it the staff will leave an organization?
Progression within the
Sorry?
progression within the
Okay, yes, so retention is also progression. But let's now look at why do people leave an organization?
Morale?
Morale? Okay, what else? Opportunity, what else? Any other reasons? They found that the reason why people leave an organization is because of the managers. People generally, they don't leave an organization, they leave because of the way that they were treated by the manager. They feel, I just can't work under this person, I don't like the way that they're treating me, I don't like the way that they behave, I feel that they're blocking my progress, etc., etc., etc. You've heard that before. And that's actually why they leave an organization. Now for us, retention has additional factors. We want to be productive, we want to feel enthusiastic, we want to feel engaged. If we can do something that we have a natural talent for, that we're good at, then we are all playing to our strengths. Now, do the devotees get tested by Maya? Yes or no? But do all the devotees experience the tests in the same way? Yes or no? But why is it some devotees are able to pass the test very easily and some are not? What makes that difference? Any ideas? What's devotee A doing that means that they can pass the test very easily, whereas for devotee B, the same tests or even easier tests cause them to fail? What's the difference?
Whether you're in a position of strength.
Exactly. You can have the same test, but you experience them differently. Does that make some sense? Yeah. Two individuals can have the same tests, but they experience them differently. And because one person is better positioned than another, even though the same test is there, because they experience them differently, sometimes you don't even have the test. Sometimes you don't even know that you have the test. So what we are trying to encourage you to do as much as possible in spiritual life is to consider these two things. The first question is, I'll just put the key word. What energizes you in spiritual life? That's the first question. The second question is what drains you in spiritual life. Now, when we've spoken about these things, I'll just take this in. One of the things that often come up in discussions about nature and being well situated is that people want to blame authorities. The authorities didn't do this for me. No one taught me about my nature, etc., etc. What we want to encourage you to do in this seminar and for the whole of your spiritual life is please don't wait for anyone. Yeah? Please, for your own protection, take the initiative in your spiritual life to try and understand yourself and to situate yourself in a position of strength. Because what will happen otherwise is Maya will just find excuses to take you out. And it will always be someone else's situation, someone didn't do this or someone did that. But you will lose power. Empowerment has many different facets. One of the facets of empowerment is that you take full responsibility for your situation. The more you do that, the more you retain power, the more you can actually move forward in a dynamic way. But to the extent that everything is someone else's fault, they did this, they didn't do that, to that extent you will actually be whacking hard on you. Yeah? As you grow older, you may find that you have less time because of other responsibilities, household responsibilities, marriage responsibilities, responsibilities with children, responsibilities with career. What we want to encourage you to do at an early age, because when you learn this in a younger time, it's more powerful. Everything is more powerful when you learn it at a younger age. Everything. Everything. Because, for example, many of the highest achievers in the world, we find this throughout our organization, they just latched on to understand what their strengths were, and they played to their strengths from a young age. For many of them, they're incredibly successful, and it's not working for them. They just like doing what they do. Because they realized when they were very young, I like this and I'm good at it. Yeah? Do you see where I'm coming from? Yeah? At the same time, we do live in a wider movement. So I want you to have both things going on. I want us to be prepared to do the needful whenever necessary. But as much as possible, when the options are there, really try and understand yourself as a person. And we'll go into a few techniques that can help you to do that in a moment. Try to understand, because you all have unique gifts. All of you will be good at different things. Right? And this is not a good and bad sketch. Everyone should be valued. If you want to see a culture that really excels, the first thing to do is to make sure you value everyone for what they can actually do. So the people who can't execute but they're great with people, value that. They will keep your team together. The people who are great at art but they're not great at I don't know, let's say design, right? They can do artistic stuff but they can't design things. Value that. Then they will play to their strengths. We have an opportunity in this lifetime to do some serious work on this planet. And I mean serious. And Krishna will help you. You can, even if you ask him consistently, if you pray to him, you'll find things will just kind of flow in your life. It really is actually that, he's that accessible. All he expects is sincerity. But for our preaching, you really want to situate yourself nicely. People in Kali Yuga don't care about God. That's the other thing you should be very clear about. Right? They actually don't care about God. They don't care about Prabhupada. They don't care about pure devotees. What they care about, because no one experiences it, they want to be happy. In this age, everyone wants to be happy. And if you're happy, first of all, you're the odd one out. Second, they'll try and work out, what the hell is this person doing that makes them so happy when I'm miserable, even though I've got all these external things. Yeah? So what happens is, they don't care about the cause, they care about the effect. But if they see the effect, they are prepared to take that journey to trace it back to where there's causing the effect. See, if you are well situated in spiritual life, my God, it's preaching. Because you can tell people whatever you've done, well, please. But if they can see you're happy, that's when they become interested. Otherwise, you'll find that the most intelligent people, they'll come and they'll watch people. And they won't say anything. They'll just watch you and observe you. You won't even know that they're kind of just analysing what's going on. And you tell them all this philosophy, this and that, they examine, okay, their relationships are rubbish. These guys, they're always having conflict with each other. These people, they're having a dysfunctional life. These people are in anxiety, and they're telling me to join them. Forget it. Yeah? They'll either stay on the sidelines or they'll go somewhere else. The real preaching is your own example. The real preaching is your own example. They're looking to think, if I join these people, I will become like this person. Is this someone I actually want to be like? So everything is more powerful when you're younger. Everything, because you catch it at an early age. I remember some of the preaching that we did and some of the devotees who I see have done really well. And they understood their nature from a very young age. And usually by accident, to be honest. Yeah? By accident. They happened to study a course they actually just had a great interest in, not just what their mum told them to study. Sound familiar? Right. But it was still a good course, they did very well, and because they did something they were interested in, are they likely to have done better or worse in the result that they got? Better. Everyone, this is not rocket science. And they have to work as hard for it as their peers or not? No. So we encourage you, try to understand yourself. What energizes me, what drains me. And then you'll see throughout our movement, there's loads of different services you can do. And it's the same thing in our youth movement. There's so many different services you can do. But we encourage you to take that initiative. Okay, of all the different things which are available, what can I do? Where is my strength? Krishna says I am the ability in man. What that means is your gifts are a gift from Krishna, first of all. Second, what it means is that you have an opportunity to offer those gifts back. So, if your spiritual master is landing at Heathrow Airport and they need someone to pick him up at the airport and drive him to the manor, the answer, who should do the service? The answer isn't whoever's the most enthusiastic. Right? The answer isn't whoever chants the most nice, whoever chants the nicest rounds. The first question is, do you have a driver's license? Right? If not, I love your japa, but I'm not going to be in the car with you under any circumstances. Right? Life assurance or no life assurance. So we just want to encourage you to think a bit more practically about this. Again, this is just one thing. You will find that as you read Prabhupada's books, there's loads of stuff you read and think, this is actually very straightforward, but no one uses it. No one uses it. I guarantee you, our movement can be 100 times more productive without putting any more effort. And that's a conservative estimate. 100 times more productive without even increasing the effort if people were situated according to their position of strength. And you'll see that that culture has to change. One of the things I'm really enthusiastic, and this is to do with you personally, and I've seen this, and I was telling my wife this the other day, because you're intelligent, I've noticed that you catch things quickly. So if you hear something and it makes sense to you, I've noticed that the Pandit Center, and this is one of the things, Sachinanda Maharaj spoke to me once. It was actually here, one mentorship retreat, and he was telling me about how much he really likes Pandit Center and how much he sees that they have great potential. My spiritual master did the same thing. He told me the same thing. In fact, we will maybe send it out at some point. He told me to write a tour report because before he got cancer, there was a Pandit Center trip in 2004 in New Vrindavan, and he told me to write a tour report about his time with the Pandit Center, because he was so inspired by me. Yeah? Now, what I'm going to say, I don't really want to take this the wrong way. You have a chance to avoid many of the issues the previous generations had. And I really mean it. But it's only going to happen if you take the bull by the horns and run with it. It's not going to happen by magic. Yeah? So again, this point is try to understand yourself. Think. Try to understand how to do things practically. Where am I situated? There's loads of service. If you're not careful, you will always have well-intentioned devotees in our movement who will just try and rope you into anything without thinking. Yeah? But then you are actually responsible for thinking on your own behalf. Because at the end of life, if you don't go back to Godhead, you will not be able to blame anyone else. Does that make some sense? You will not be able to blame anyone else. It will still be, why didn't you use your common sense and try to situate yourself properly? When opportunities are there. When we need to do the needful, we do the needful, but you can also have that mood of a censor, meaning that you may be in a situation because it's an emergency, but you're keeping an eye out and you're noticing, because when you know yourself, guess what? You can read everyone else. You understand? When you understand yourself, you can see easily what makes other people tick. There was one of my colleagues, ex-colleagues, when they were giving a presentation on this topic to it was all managing directors. They were talking about a TED Talk, which is called The Power of Introverts. And they were explaining how there's some people, they get their energy by being alone. And there are some people, they get their energy by being around others. And that doesn't mean that we shouldn't associate. Everyone should associate. Everyone should associate. Because aside from whether you're an introvert or extrovert, everyone gets energy by devotion. And when we associate, we get devotion. So it's not one or the other. But outside of our programs and so on, some people are alone, but they're still doing devotional service because they're reading, which is what Maya is speaking about. So it's not that we're doing service or not doing service, it's how are we serving the Lord? You understand? So she was explaining this to a group of managing directors. And she was explaining about open plan offices. So for those people who get energy by having more of a closed introspective space, she said open plan offices kill them. They just feel completely drained. She said for others, they love being around people. They get all their energy by talking and chatting and having people around. Your job as devotees is to actually understand who you are on both levels. The direct devotional service will help you to understand, ultimately come to your eternal identity. But in this world, while you're practicing in this world, try to situate yourself in a position of strength. Now there's a few techniques to do this. The first, and I'll take this is like almost in reverse order, is try to help other people understand themselves. You have a unique special ability, and that is that you can see things in other people that they can't see in themselves. Do you understand what? See, the reason why Krishna comes as Lord Chaitanya is because Krishna can never experience what it's like to serve Krishna because he's Krishna. Right? Because he's receiving the service. See, he doesn't know what it's like to be on the outside, looking at Krishna, offering things to Krishna, seeing Krishna's joy, all that kind of stuff. So he comes as Lord Chaitanya. So he has to come as a different entity to experience what it's like to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So in a similar vein, you can't really understand why people love you or understand you or what they see in you because it's you. It has to be perceived from the outside. Does that make some sense? So if you have people, and you should have people, start getting feedback. What do you think I should be doing? What do you think are my strengths? How can I kind of maximize my spiritual life? You'll be shocked what you hear. The way I had this, throughout many years, my seniors always gave me feedback. My spiritual master told me things about my nature that I didn't even know about myself. On the day of my initiation, he said in front of everyone, they filmed it, he said, Dr. Eddie wants to know everything. And it's true. It's true. It was a revelation for me at the time, but that's just when my mind was like, how does this work? What's going on? Like, what's making it function? And I've just got that kind of intelligence. I just want to understand what makes it work. What's driving this? He said that to me. He told me other things about myself. So Tamal Krishnamurti used to tell me that, Bhuta Bhavana, you're like this, you should do this, this, and this. Satchinanda Maharaj told me things. So many of my seniors. Yeah? So that's one thing. But your peers also. Yeah? People who know you. How do I come across? What do you think I'm doing well? What do you think I should do more of or less of? You can even pray to Prabhupada. Prabhupada, please reveal to me what you want me to be doing. You have so much available to you, it would shock you. But you just have to try and use these things. That's one thing. Second, introspect. Because you do understand things about yourself. One way of introspecting is to use these questions. What energizes you? What kind of things do you do, service you do, that you just wake up and you think, my God, Krishna consciousness is fantastic. That you kind of wake up, you're on fire, they have to call the fire brigade, put you out. You understand what I'm talking about? You have those days, right? You have those days. I remember, we used to hear Neela Mani do like kirtan a lot. And I could see she just gets into it. It was just like, her eyes are closed. It's like, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock. People have gone to bed. She's still leading the kirtan. It was just so much enthusiasm. But her enthusiasm, it's contagious. It spread to everyone else. Because when you're doing something that you can do nicely for Krishna and you're into it, it has potency. Everyone else feels it. Does that make some sense? Yeah? So ask people who know you for feedback. Introspect. Yeah? Just be conscious of yourself. When are you feeling particularly charged up and inspired? Yeah? What are your own gifts? Krishna says, I'm the ability man. So where is Krishna manifesting in terms of your talents? Those talents, that is Krishna. So whatever talent you have, it's actually a manifestation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Something that He's given you, you can give back to Him. And as you understand yourself and you understand others, then you can have real relationships. I feel for you in one sense. Because in many cases, it's harder to have relationships in this day and age. Because you've grown up in a culture where everything is instant. Right? Through the Snapchat, whatever social media. So it will have an effect, it can have an effect on people's patience, tolerance. Because it's like, you're used to kind of like just getting it now. So if it doesn't come now, you have to wait even a second. My God, it was a whole second. Can you believe a whole second? I saw grey hairs. But of course, Krishna consciousness can also, make everything useful. But as you understand yourself, you'll be able to understand others. If you know how your nature is, you look at someone else, you can immediately see. We did some seminars in Birmingham on natures, right? And after a while, everyone's just like, yeah, she's got this kind of nature. That's why she's the way she is. There's one person, and very strong, kind of like, basically a Kshatriya type. Don't want to meet her in a dark alley. You understand what I'm talking about? That kind of thing going on. But the point is that if you understand what everyone else is going through and what their natures are, then you know how to deal with people according to their strength. The last thing I'll say on this, and I think it is important, but you also be wary of your expectations of seniors and juniors. The seniors often make it look easier than it actually is. I was saying that with my own seniors, and their families, their children, work responsibilities. And one of the things I'm seeing emerging in Krishna, in our circles, is that sometimes even in mentorship, because people assume something, well, my mentor didn't call me. What's wrong with her? She doesn't care. But then your mentor is actually, she's got about 20 people that she's trying to take care of, along with the children and so many other things. And she won't necessarily say to you that I'm just really busy. But someone has to say, this is how it works. The reason why we say this is because if you have good relationships with your seniors and juniors, you get empowerment. Think back to what Marge said, that whole thing, if you take that position properly, actually what happens is everything that they learn through trial and error and experience, you just get a download. That's one of the ways in which you can avoid things that everyone else had to learn by harsh experience. Yeah? So by proper, it's a mentality more. It's not just externally being submissive, it's actually the mentality. It's the mentality. And if you have that mentality, they become inspired to give you more. They just desire your well-being. And just by them desiring your well-being, you become empowered. I know it sounds so simple, but it's actually true. I studied it. There was a seminar, and if you want to get a chance, you may want to listen to it. It's a 10-part seminar called The Power of Blessings by Satchidananda. He talks about all this stuff, and he quotes letters by Prabhupada, sections in the Bhagavatam and in other places. There's unlimited empowerment available. Actually, I mean, and when I say unlimited, I'm talking literally. It has no end magnitude. It's not bounded. Yeah? And Krishna is willing and ready to empower anyone. It actually has no favors. But even with empowerment, try to work out. Krishna has a special mission for all of us. The thing that's exciting the hell out of me in spiritual life at the moment is because through prayer and also through instructions from my seniors and so on, we have some glimpse of certain things that we're meant to be doing. And it's just like, I can't wait to just fully manifest it. It's just incredibly exciting. And as I think about this more and more, I realize it's the same for every one of us. For every one of us. You have something you can offer the Lord, and as you do your devotion nicely, and as you try to situate yourself nicely, all will be revealed to you. Yeah? So help other people to understand themselves and to bring out the best in themselves. Introspect. What energizes me? What drains me? Get feedback from other people. Right? So how do I come across? What do you think I'm particularly good at? I reckon you'd be incredible at A, B, C, and D. Yeah? What do you think I should avoid? Maybe don't go prashad next time for the program. But no, not in those words, obviously. You understand what I'm trying to say. The point is that everyone has their area of strengths. And actually, the real thing that gets you back to God is the sincerity in which you do your service. So that's the most important, is the devotion. But from the strategic point of view, you're doing a program and you know how to do a certain service, and you do it nicely, because for the non-devotees, they won't be able to appreciate directly the devotion with which something's done. They look at it and they think, it was a great program, it was nicely organized, there was good prasadam, things were on time. Do you see the point? So they're looking at the external. They are affected by the devotion, but they are affected by the devotion unconsciously. Right? Unconsciously. But on the conscious level, they go back and say, it was a great program, the guy who spoke was funny, the room was really nicely decorated, the class, the people who greeted us at the door, they were really friendly. So devotion works on two levels. The purity has an unconscious effect on most people, because they're not conscious of purity. But how things are done externally, that they can be consciously aware of. And both things are actually spiritual. Because if you care about Krishna, you will try to do your service to him nicely. Do you see the point? You can't say, I care about Krishna, but I do things whimsically. Because if you cared, you try to do it nicely because it's for him. Does that make some sense? So in summary, you have a chance to do really well. And I've seen it happening actually. I'll be honest, I've seen some really good signs from you guys as Panda Center. You'll be able to pass the test much more easily because you'll be situated in a position of strength. And do read that purple. Who here heard Satchidananda when he read that purple a few years ago here? 8230 Srimad Bhagavatam, you remember? So it's about Gajendra, who's an elephant who was fighting a crocodile. but they were fighting in the water. And even though Gajendra as an elephant is more powerful than the crocodile, he's losing to someone who is less powerful than him because he's in a position of weakness. And that happens throughout our movement. And then everyone turns around and says, oh, this is so hard. Krishna consciousness is so hard. But actually, it doesn't have to be. I guarantee you, Prabhupada does not want you to struggle unnecessarily. And for most of the devotees in our movement, they could get more done with even less effort, although the effort would also go up when they have to engage. That's the other thing. Even though you can get more done with less effort when you're well situated, if you're well situated, you automatically put more effort in, which is an interesting dynamic that also goes on. Yeah? And our movement can have more impact. So that conversation between Prabhupada and Giriraj Maharaj, it is deeply profound and insightful. How will the movement spread after I leave? If we just chant our rounds, Prabhupada did, by organization and intelligence. That's what Prabhupada said. Because he knew, what do I need to emphasize? Both things are important. You want the devotion to be there, definitely, and it's primary. But you also want to situate yourself in a position of strength so that you will relish spiritual life. You will wake up and feel, this is just too good. This is absolutely amazing. Yeah? And you can do it. Even for those of you who haven't even started your studies or whatever, if you introspect a bit, and it's not their fault. Sometimes your parents will want you to do stuff which is just crazy. And they're filming this, right? Is this being filmed? Yeah. It doesn't matter. The point is that sometimes your parents are going to ask you to do stuff which is just crazy, but they're well-intentioned. But the world is full of well-intentioned people. And that's one of the best ways that Maya just knocks people out. It's not enough to be well-intentioned, actually. Yeah? You have to know what you're doing. If you have a kid and your child is critically ill, and you take your child to the hospital, and the doctor there doesn't know anything about treating children, but they're well-intentioned, you're in trouble. It's not enough to be well-intentioned. It requires more than that. You actually have to know what you're doing. Yeah? And it starts with understanding who you are. Try to understand who you are. What energizes me, what trains me. Ask people. And it's something you can do throughout your life. You'll be amazed at what you hear. You'll be amazed at what you hear. I've done this over years. My spiritual master used to go with a notebook and ask people for feedback. How am I doing? What do you think I can improve on? Right? Now, I'm not asking you to copy that, because you have to ask people who you are prepared to hear from. This is the other side. Don't ask people who you don't like, they don't like you, they tell you something really harsh, and then you blame Bhuta Bhavana. It's not like that. This is my disclaimer on video. But the point is that the people who know you, who you're prepared to get feedback from, they should be honest well-wishers. That's the way to look for it. Someone who's honest and they're your well-wisher, not just honest. Honest, well-wishing, and you'll be shocked what you see. You'll be shocked what you hear. You'll be shocked at how Krishna, he always wants to speak to you, he wants to give you clues. Dude, do this. Dude, if you move more in this direction, I can see this being a great success. Yeah? The Supreme Personality of God in each and every devotee's life is real time. Do you understand? It's not something that you've just heard about like years ago or decades. It's not even something that's in Prabhupada's time. I guarantee you, Krishna wants to speak to you even now. And you'll be shocked how much he's prepared to help you. All he expects is that you're sincere. He doesn't, honestly, he doesn't even expect your perfect. Just that you're sincerely trying your best. I guarantee you, you'll get help. Yeah? Through the devotees, through the Shastra, through the spiritual master, through different things that will happen in your life, he'll kind of really help you. Yeah? So we just encourage you, don't waste time, and don't blame other people. Yeah? Really try and think, the person who's most responsible for keeping you engaged and inspired in spiritual life is who? It's yourself. That will keep you energized, dynamic, happy in spiritual life. And what will happen is you'll be moving so fast that even some of us in this room, you may have karma where you have to go through certain things. But when you're strongly situated, you wouldn't sometimes even know that what you're going through is karmic, because you're just able to move with it. You're just able to move through it. Yeah? So we're looking forward to seeing you guys spread the movement in amazing ways. Use your creativity, use your interests, use your skills and talents. Damn it, be happy, joy in it, relish it. Yeah? We're here to help you. As you know, the ones who've been around a bit longer, we're here to help you. You know? But we want to see you, actually, most people want to see you happy in spiritual life. Yeah? And having real, joyful, lasting impact because you actually have figured out things about who you are. And it's an unfolding. As you grow older, you'll understand even more about yourself. You understand more about others. There'll come a time when you meet people, you can immediately see what they're like. One of my colleagues, he tries to make out that he's relational, which means that there's a certain kind of personality type where that relational means that when they meet you, it's all about you, right? I can see for a fact he's lying, you know, but I don't say anything to him because it's just going to create a bit of disturbance. But I'm like, dude, really? Like, really? But that's okay, because then if you know what the person's like, you know how to deal with them accordingly. Yeah? And if you learn this early, you will be able to build rapport with anyone. You go into any situation, you can immediately understand. Now, for example, this new president, President Trump, right? So if you know about personality styles, you can immediately tell what he was going to do. You knew he's that directive, dominant. He's going to come out. We're going to change this. We're going to change that. I'm going to impose my idea on the American public. It's all textbook stuff. So no one needs to be surprised about anything. Yeah. So we really do want to encourage you that feedback from other people who know you. Honest, how can I play to my strengths? What do you think I could be doing to really help spread Christian consciousness? And remember, it's not just about any talents. There's more to it. You may be talented at something, but it's also going to be something that we call, Saturday Night calls it your glowing yes. Yeah? Something that keeps you inspired and infused, that gets you up at night, you know? That keeps you thinking, I can't wait till the next day so we can do this, and do this. You empower other people by giving them encouragement and positive feedback on how they can be better situated. Like, Prabhu, I noticed you've got this kind of skill. I reckon you could do this, you'd be amazing at it. Yeah? Because Christian in your heart, he sees. You told him something to encourage him. Okay, I'm going to make sure that we encourage you to do what you're meant to be doing. That's how it works. You encourage people to be doing what they're meant to be doing for Krishna. Krishna will practically force you, in a nice way, to be doing the thing that's going to get you the most devotional advancement. Because what we're giving to each other, what we're giving to another person, what we're giving to ourselves. Yeah? I'm at a time in my life, and it's interesting, someone predicted this for me, and I feel it. I can actually say, I feel like we're family. When I'm around you guys, I feel a real sense that we're all part of the same family. Sometimes people have behaviors which you don't necessarily appreciate, that's another story. But it's just like, but it's still family. It's still family. I was told that, what was it, 2012 maybe? One devotee said that when you come to this particular family life, you'll feel a sense of the wider family. They actually told me, and I thought, I didn't really think that. Really, maybe we'll see. But I can actually, and when I look back, I thought, he was completely accurate. This person who said it, on point. I feel like we're wider family. So it's our job to make sure you do well. That's actually my job. Right? My job is to make sure that you guys actually do well, and that you do it in style, and that you're empowered to do it. Yeah? So this is one offering. So I had spiritual masters come up to me. Sachin Maharaj told me something. He said the Pandava Center, he said they need training. He told me that a few years ago. And I was at a program with Bhakti Charan Maharaj. It was in Bhavana in Prabhupada's Darshan room. I think it was 3 or 4 years ago. And he gave me the instruction in the program. I recorded the class. I still got the recording somewhere. He said, train them. Yeah? So my job is to make sure that you guys get this. So even if we drum the same thing into your head again and again, don't think we're doing it because we don't like you, but the point is that this will make your life a lot easier. Because you will find that as you grow up, you don't have the same amount of time. You understand? And as you grow up, you will not have the same amount of energy. But small things done early, looking after your health when you're young, means you will avoid health issues when you're older. You understand? Small habits, eating properly, yoga, then you can still run around because your body has that energy, but small things, drinking enough water, exercise, dancing enthusiastically in the kirtan. My spiritual master said once, he said that he was finding that every year in the GBC meetings, there were leaders who aren't able to come because they're ill. And many times it's stress-related illnesses because they're not exercising. You understand? So small things done when you're younger will save you issues when you're older. Yeah? So what we're trying to do is get you to do small things and still have a great experience as a young person, but we want to see that even when you're 40, 50, 60, you're actually strong, you're not having any health issues, and I mean no health issues, because you don't need to have them. You have great relationships, you are happily married, your kids have turned out really well, and you're spreading the movement, and it's just like, dude, you know, I had a call with the president the other day. He was asking for advice again. It's like it's difficult. It's like yeah, I'm going to do an RT in a few minutes, but we've got 5 minutes to just give you a bit of a quick, you know, in this situation, Prabhu will do this, you know, like that. Yeah. So our job is to make sure you get there. Is that understood? Yeah. Okay. Any questions? Comments? Yes.
Actually, thing. I've encountered a situation where the leading group and one of the members of the group is taking this particular service because he's inspired by it. But because he's inspired by it, doesn't necessarily mean that it's his nature to do the service.
Definitely.
Therefore, he's maybe got some like premature surrender, and he's surrendering to the service because he's inspired by it. And I can see that internally killing him. And if you try to, as a leader, your job is to make sure he's correctly situated. And therefore, if you try to adjust him, he's not willing to because he's inside and therefore it's getting inside. So how do you deal with that sort of situation?
So it's such a good question. I was thinking about this the other day. There's inspiration in different modes. This is what I was getting at the beginning. When you're inspired and you just jump in whimsically, it's inspiration in the mode of ignorance. Because you're inspired, there's no thinking behind it, you just jump in. There's inspiration in the mode of passion where you're inspired to do something, but it's not because it's what you should be doing, it's because of the prestige. Then there's inspiration in the mode of goodness, you're doing what you're meant to be doing. So what we should be doing, as we become more sattvic, which is a whole other topic we'll go into on another occasion, the trick is never to let it get to that point in the first place. So when we train our leaders and managers, we get them, and they're always enthusiastic to do this. They try to understand the strengths of their team so that they can then situate them properly from the beginning. It's not that you let them into a position, then you find out after you let them into a position that they're not suitable, then you have to take them out because that starts to create friction in the relationship. What will happen is as we hear and think about these things more, then everyone's on the same page. And it's like, all right, let's come together and do a project. So the first thing we ask ourselves is, what is everyone good at? That's the first question. It's not, what do you want to do? No. It's, what can you actually do? Let's start there. And then once we're clear on what everyone's good at, then we go into the next step, because we missed the first step. And that first crucial step that we miss means that we immediately move into passion, because we just jumped in. And then afterwards there's all this kind of fallout that didn't need to be there in the first place. Yeah? So as we do, what we do at work is the managers are into training their whole team. They do a whole thing with their team about understanding personality types, because the moment the team understands everyone's personality type, then it's like, oh, I get it. Now I understand why they act the way that they do. And along with that, you have to make people feel comfortable. No service is better than another service. Our job is to go back home, back to Godhead, and to spread the mission of Krishna consciousness. What the service you do is the medium through which you're going to offer your devotion to Krishna. The medium is not the devotion. The medium is the means through which you're going to offer your devotion. Do you see the difference? So then you choose the correct medium. But if you think the medium is the devotion, we will always have a movement where everyone is after prestige. And even if they can't do something, they're killing themselves to try and do something, just because, and everyone can see, you're not good at it, you're not meant to be doing it, but because of the prestige, you feel you have to do it, and then they just burn out. And they create difficulties in the process. Again, we want your life to be easier. Yeah? Easier, and at the same time more spiritually successful, more spiritually powerful. And you can do it. You guys in this room, you have the intelligence, and you have the brains and the sincerity to do it. Yeah? So in everything that you're doing, try to do devotion, but also try to understand yourself. And if you need help, ask each other. Another big issue we have in many organizations is a lack of collaboration. One organisation I worked for, they were very good at this actually, and surprisingly, they were surprisingly good. When people had issues, they would just send emails, they'll actually not even send emails. The organisation had its own internal form of Facebook. So people would just post things on their own internal form, like, I need some help on this. Has anyone done this kind of project before? How do you do it? And then someone says, yeah, I've done that project. Talk to me offline, we'll discuss it. Or, I need some posters for this. Has anyone ever given a presentation? Yeah, I've done something on that. Send me an email, I'll send you the posters. They were always sharing and collaborating. They were just so successful. And I was speaking to the head of learning and development in asset management. I was speaking to was it Wednesday? No, Monday. On Monday. And she was saying that as an organisation, that's one of the things that we often don't do so well. You know? So my point is, it's all there for you. Now your job is to take advantage of it. Yeah? No one can do it for you. Start. Even if you keep a journal, you can ask Christian, please reveal things about me to myself, so I can understand more about my nature and how I can situate myself in a position of strength. Yeah? And especially even for the girls, and this is a side thing, but it's important. You're going to get married, so start looking young, because what you'll find is it's difficult as you get older. Do you understand? And if you don't have that, it may start to play on your own mind, yeah, as you get older. So small things make a big difference if you do them at a younger age. Does that make some sense? Okay, I saw a question back.
I just want to know, you were talking about finding your strengths. So is finding your strength something that comes naturally? Is it something that you're born with, or is it something that you feel like you can develop over the course of your life?
So there's talents, there's skills, and there's knowledge. So you have an inherent ability in some area. That's your talent. It's because in the previous life you cultivated it. Yep. So you have a talent. Now if you cultivate that, it becomes more and more strong. So the point here is that we're not equal. No one. This is all rubbish. No one's equal. Yeah. On the spiritual level, we're all unlimitedly valuable. That's not the point. But in terms of talents, so we come into this life. So say person A, person B. We come into this life at different levels in different areas. So someone comes into this life, you see it, they've already got some ability, let's say like 2 units of ability for management. Then so Shruti Dharma told me about Shiv Ram once. He said he was always managerial. He was always managing. He just, bang, 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 he has that kind of thinking. He can think in a certain way. Someone else, they come in, and in this life, their managerial ability starts there. These are starting points. So person B can get better, but they're going to have to work for it. Person A, they start there. That means person B is going to work hard to get to where person A has started from. So why waste your time if you've got this and you're not so good at it, but there's something else that you're really good at? And the movement needs both things, but you've got someone who's already strong in that area. Let them manage. Why get them to leave something that they're good at, work on something that they're bad at, waste all this time and energy trying to boost it, and do the same for this other individual? So you have inherent talents. You'll find that there are some things you're just naturally, you've got a natural head start on. And even just a little bit of work on it, it really yields a lot of result. So you try to understand that. And there are also even online things, like psychometrics and tests and things that you can do. I can send you the link for one. It produces 2 30-page reports about your nature using a certain system. But once you understand, you can read people like a book. And you can even read things that they don't expect you to be able to see about as well. That's another conversation. Yes?
So sometimes, if you ask for feedback, you might get feedback where people tell you something that you really thought you didn't like to do. They might, like, let me give you an example myself, like people tell me, oh, you're a manager, or you can get things done, you execute it. But I find it like a bit intimidating, I feel a bit shy, or I'm not very comfortable doing that. But people tell me that's my strength, but I'm not. What do you do in that situation? Do you still go ahead and pursue it, or when you don't feel comfortable doing it? Or
So Satchidananda gave me a model. So he showed me this. So this is to do with talents, and this is to do with the needs of the community or the needs of the movement. Okay? So you have a range of talents. That will just be one of them. So what you're looking for is an overlap between something that you're good at and the movement actually needs. So you'll find that in this space, it's not just one thing. Management may be one thing that you're good at and that the movement could use. But there may be other things that you're also good at that the movement could use as well. So you can take that as a data point. It means that where there's a need, you can do it. If what they're saying is accurate, and you do need to check it's accurate. Yeah? But if there's something that you have a talent for, the movement needs, and you're particularly inspired to do, why would you not do that? Because all of these things are needed, right? And you're good at all of these things, but within here, you're good at it, the movement needs it, and you're inspired to do it.
So it's basically trying to find that triangle.
If you can find a triangle, ideally, yeah. At least this quadrant, whenever possible, but ideally this quadrant. You have some inspiration, your talent for it, and the movement, the community could actually benefit from that. Does that make some sense? Yeah. Yes?
Do you know Prabhupada says that if you don't follow the four regulative principles, you haven't come to the human form of life?
Yes, it does. Yes.
So then if you're not following the four regulative principles, then you're not on the human form of life. How are you supposed to find out your nature? Because actually you've got animalistic mentality. So when you're reflecting, then you're not actually...
Think about this way. In the outside world, do people follow the four regulative principles? Generally.
No.
Does that mean they don't have a nature? Does that mean they don't have talents or strengths or abilities? They're all doing it anyway. Don't worry about that. Start somewhere because you have to be purified. That's the whole point. Yeah? They're all... So, the Vedic definition of being human is different to what they consider humans now. Human here just means that you've got 2 arms, 2 legs, and you've got the anatomy of a human being. But Vedically, human means you're cultured. Vedically, human means that you're within Varnashram. Yeah? So when it talks about that, that means that human also Vedically means there's some baseline of sattva, which is where the four regulative principles come in. Right? It means he's at least sattvic. He's on some basic level. He doesn't eat dead corpses. You understand? He can control himself, in terms of sex life. He doesn't try to get something for nothing, i.e. gambling mentality. Yeah? And he's functional enough that he doesn't have to intoxicate himself to try and escape his existence. Yeah? So that's what it means in a Vedic sense. But it doesn't mean you haven't got a nature. You do have a nature. Other questions or comments? Yes.
Just going further on the point actually made. What's the difference between mental and sensual?
What's the difference between mental and sensual?
Yeah.
Okay, so mental is to do with the mind. Sensual is to do with the senses. It's more the physical aspect. Yeah? Okay, so what happened with Prabhupada says that because his body became weak, so like Gajendra, his mind also became weak. So what he's actually saying is there's a relationship between your physical and mental situation. He's actually saying the two things are connected. I've taken it over time, so I should just see if there's any last questions, because at least you have some free time before the next presentation. Are there any other questions or comments? No? Okay, did everyone catch what we were saying? Yeah? Let's do this. One last thing I'm going to ask you to do then, just to kind of lock it in, is I'd like you to speak to someone in this room, just 2 minutes, reflect upon what you've heard, and what it means to you in terms of maybe one thing that you may think differently, do differently, say differently, that can help you to use what we've discussed today to position yourself better in your spiritual life. Okay, 2 minutes. Anyone in the room? Go. This thing about meditating on what you've heard and discussing and applying it, it has huge implications. If you want to see yourself change as a person, all you need to do is these 3 stages. Yeah? Hearing, thinking about it, applying it. And also you can add prayer to that as well. I think that's from a commentary by Bhavana, I think. But the point is that if you do these things throughout your spiritual life, you'll see year on year you'll change. You'll change. You'll be able to shed certain habits that you may be struggling with and continue to grow. And there's nothing more exciting than seeing how year by year you're literally becoming a different person. More powerful, more insight, more understanding. Yeah? For you guys as a youth, everything is available to you. Everything. But the only thing is how much you take it on board and you start to make it part of your life. It can't be something that you hear in the class and then you go back and everything's the same. that won't work. You won't get much from that. But even if you take one or two things and you work with them and you kind of weave it into your life, you know, you make it a habit. So you, after class, you always talk to someone. What did you do in class? What was that? That was interesting. I said that, and I thought that was really good. And that could, if you weave it in, you'll start to really change the picture. And you can shed stuff very, very easily. Very easily. Okay. I'm going to have to go because I've got another meeting now. But I want to say thank you for your time. I want to sincerely wish all of you the very best of luck for your spiritual life. And by spiritual, I mean your whole life. Everything you do, your career, your job, your relationships, your interactions with your parents, your seniors, your peers, your juniors. You're a generation, if you take what you've been given properly, you'll see miracles happen on a regular basis. It'll be normal. You'll be like, yeah, the miracle happened to you yesterday? Oh, well, no, it was the day before. Oh, okay. You're missing, right? Honestly, and you'll get more of a sense of the kind of spiritual life that I wanted you guys to have. And it will be something like really mind-blowing and phenomenal. Yeah? Okay, so we'll stop there. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.